You still have tonsils?
Yes.
Yeah, neither of us got tonsils though.
Oh, I was thinking of when you got your wisdom teeth out. I remember you coming home.
You do?
Yeah, you had one of the wraps on, where it's like a wrap with the 2 ice packs on your cheeks.
Yeah. I do remember.
And for some reason, I don't know where this is, I associate that with Darth Vader. Either you must have talked about Darth Vader, or someone said
maybe
something
you saw
about
Star Wars for the first time around that time.
Yep, maybe. But when I think about you getting your wisdom teeth out and the wrap on your head, I also think about Darth Vader.
Maybe when he takes them.
But when I think about Darth Vader, like if I saw Star Wars, I wouldn't think about you getting it.
Right,
It's only the other way around.
Maybe when he takes his mask off and his face is all like that swollen, weird white thing.
Not black.
He's not James Earl Jones.
Simba. Remember who you are.
It wasn't a big thing to obviously record, and somebody would have had us have a straight up video camera or 15 seconds of a freaking digital camera. Wait, did we talk about this on the pod, or did I talk about this? Karen, why did they... why were all the digital cameras... Okay, you know, with the iPhone now, it's just like, it's digital zoom.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That wasn't invented yet.
I know.
And it's poor quality back then.
But sometimes they had digital zoom, and they still went out like this. The super...
Are you sure it was still digital
the
zoom?
super extendo camera erection.
And then you got sand in it, and it was like...
Yeah, exactly.
But was that digital zoom, though?
No, that's not digital zoom. That's regular.
Yeah.
Freaking.
So it wasn't digital zoom.
No, I know,
a digital
but
camera.
Sometimes they were both. It's like, if you're going to do digital camera, come up with digital zoom.
Well, sometimes it was...
And those weird Japanese guys and their pornography, they're like, no, we have to have penis lenses.
No.
That go...
No, because it was optic zoom.
You remember sometimes they were really slow.
Remember just like on your iPhone right now, it's like ×3 is optic zoom. So that was the, the erection, and then
no, I thought
after that was
optic
digital.
zoom would be the lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it's coming out,
so the erection was optical.
Correct.
Yeah, and digital they just do a little
was
extra.
After that, but it didn't move anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know how it works. It's just like, figure it out.
That's how cameras work.
I'm just saying, it's the Asian people, because there might have been some Koreans in Samsung doing the tower.
Yeah, why was it a tower babble?
Okay. Actually, before we get too far, because we're talking about Asians, Tower of Babel, penises, erections.
Speaking different tongues.
I had a thought the other day, and I researched it, and then I thought it might be something that you are interested in.
If it's on the subject of Tower of Babel and erections, probably.
It's neither about Tower of Babel, nor is it about erections, but it is about Japanese people.
Okay.
So I found myself walking behind a Japanese person the other day.
How do you know?
I'm just good with those.
Their hands were behind their back.
Their hands were behind their back. They're wearing a camera. No. They just were. And this guy was...
Did he have raw denim on?
He was probably... No, I'm going to get to that. He was probably mid-40s or even 50. But you know how they say black don't crack? I don't know what the Asian phrase is, because the Asian phrase is basically Asian don't crack until like 70.
Then boom.
Yeah.
Everything cracks.
And that's not my stereotype. That's a stereotype they have.
Then you go into the...
And I just don't know the right rhyme.
Then you go into putting the gold in the crack pots.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Honor.
If there wasn't like 5 years where that was every freaking Christian metaphor camp service or whatever.
Cedar Springs.
Anyways, I was walking behind this guy. Here's what he was wearing.
So Japanese.
Actually, you know what? I don't know what shoes he was wearing. But
They weren't those wooden sandals with the two wooden pieces coming down.
no, he wasn't Ryu. I switched my pronunciation from Ryu to Ryu.
Ooh.
The correct one. Wait, why are we watching the
Roku
City?
They just switched to beach theme. It's all palm trees now.
We need to switch it to our normal.
Today. To Japan.
I was walking behind this guy. I don't know what his shoes were, but on his head, he was bald.
Oh, rare.
But on his head, he was wearing sort of...
So he was a monk.
A backwards... he was wearing sort of a backwards page boy. It wasn't like Kangol.
Page boy. Oh, okay.
Like, it wasn't Kangol. Like...
Peaky Blinders, but backwards.
Yeah. And it was cool. And it was kind of like set back a little bit. White t-shirt. And
because their love of Americana, 50s Americana.
Exactly. And then his pants were sort of
raw denim.
No, they weren't raw denim. They weren't denim.
But linen-y.
Wrong. They were closer to Tweedy, Jeff Tweedy. No. They were closer to Tweedy.
Sweeney Todd.
They were like you know, it looks like the Scrambly channel.
Yeah.
You know, when you're looking for...
So it's black and white?
You remember when you're looking for the Playboy channel? Grandma used to get the Scrambly channel at her house when she had a VCR. And I saw it one time. Yeah, if you can imagine what it would be like for a lady with fake boobs to run naked in the snow, fall, die, and be laying overnight in the middle of a snowstorm, and 5 inches of powder falls on top of her, and the
fresh gnar,
and the sort of outline of a breast was atop the snow.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what it was, except then you could hear the it was like yeah. So he was wearing those kind of it's like that material where it's like it's really sort of like it's almost like a little bit chunky,
where
sort
you can
of
like see the
it's not gray.
What
it's
do
like
they call that? Because they use that term in the Japanese raw denim, and might be.
So these were almost joggery type of, but they were like.
Oh, so they had the elastic at the bottom?
The fabric was dressed, but yes, they were gathered at the bottom, and that was part of what I was saying, because the bottom was actually a little bit big. And I had a thought about, you know how Japanese street style is one of the sort of, I don't know how you would say it. It's sort of like one of the iconic like styles of the world. That is, there are a lot of styles you could sort of group by region, but there's not a lot of styles you could say are very specific to a very specific place. Like you might think of like European people wearing like the slim cut jeans with sort of the slim shoes that have a little bit of a pointy toe and maybe a slim button down. Even if you're overweight by 30 pounds, it's still, it wasn't quite that. It was gathered at the bottom, not.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Striped or no? Striped.
No, not striped. And, but you know how that's a style, but that's not a style to a specific place. That is sort of a European style. Japanese street style is just Japanese street style. And oft repeated, oft imitated, never repeated.
This is Is this?
No,
this
but it wasn't denim.
Yeah,
but yeah. It's sort of
with
like
the-
black and white, though. Yeah. You know what I'm
Nep.
talking about?
Nep is what it's called when it's like rough like that.
Yeah.
It's like how it's woven.
Right.
It's not as smooth.
Yeah. So those are what pants he was kind of wearing, but they were a little bit out. And this is what I was wondering.
These aren't black and white, but
Yeah, similar.
vibe.
Similar. This is what I was thinking. I feel like in this case, they have a height advantage. And I wondered this. I wondered because a lot of that Japanese street style, what they're adding is width.
Yes.
There's a chunkiness.
Yes.
And I am wondering, and it's I really tried to look this up and I could not find anything, but I bet it's out there. I shouldn't say I really tried to look it up. I just did, and I do want to look it up further because I bet it's true. I bet it's a proportions thing from height to adding width. I think there's something Fibonacci-esque going on. Because I was thinking when I was walking behind,
ratio.
I was thinking when I was walking behind this guy, I was imagining like, okay, try being 6'4",
Yeah.
and wearing this outfit. And then I thought, okay, those pants would fit slimmer on him. And then I was like, no, do the same proportions on 6'4" as 5'4",
Yes.
and it's gonna look like Goofy Clown.
Speaking of Goofy Clown, this is exactly what I say about Converse for people with big feet.
Except that, but I disproved my point because I said it's about ratio. But anyways,
Well, I think that
because I said mathematically the same, but it's not mathematically the same.
like you see these people with their cool shoes, their Jordan 4s and blah, 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 blah. It comes to a point when you're size bigshoes.com, 13, 12,
Exactly.
13, 14 plus, it doesn't look the same as you see these other people wearing them. The not tying them with the little string, little what are those called? Tittles hanging out the side.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about with the ones that have the zip ties on them and stuff.
Yeah, that too. But what's the end of a shoelace called?
Yeah, titties. What'd you say?
Tittle? That's the I, the dotting an I.
The jot and tittle. Yeah, I don't think.
It has a funny name.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, there
But
comes a point where they have
exactly, I
to.
agree.
They askew the ratio. They don't hold down shift when they enlarge the shoe, because at some point it needs to get longer than it does wider.
Yes.
Or else, if they do hold shift while they enlarge the shoe, it's going to be so wide.
Aglet
Yep, that's it.
or aglet.
It's going to be so wide that it looks like you went to wideshoes.com because you're obese.
You know what?
And so Converse keep it skinny, but then all of a sudden you have 40 eyelets of, laces, and it looks like a long clown shoe sticking out.
Yes.
There's literally more holes in it for the laces to go through because it's so much bigger.
Oh, don't even get me started. One of my number one pet peeves in my life. Number one, because I wear a size 14. This is a top tier pet peeve in my life, is that shoe designers, when they're upscaling a shoe, they need to adjust ratios and not just do a times 1.3 or whatever on the shoe.
That's what I'm saying.
And because they need to get if you have a size 14 versus a 10, it's probably not the fat of your cankle that also needs to go wide. Although for some people it is.
Have you
But
seen
to go from 10 to 14, you probably just need length in the torso of the foot.
metatarsal?
The foot torso.
in the metatarsal area.
Exactly.
Have you seen Kevin Durant's foot without the shoe on?
I feel like I have.
And you look up his size of shoe, and I'll look up the photo. It's exactly what you're talking about.
Didn't want
The
to do that,
whole
but
the
that's okay.
whole length is all in the middle. Not long toes, not giant cankle.
No.
It doesn't even look real. It looks like our foot, you and I, just add 3 inches in the middle of it.
Like a bad Photoshop job where they just like stretch. Dang. But
It's all from like mid ankle bone to ball of the foot.
you have just solved this conversation has just solved a giant conundrum in my life, which is I have always loved hilarious. I have always loved girl clothes more than guy clothes. And yuck.
Kevin Durant's feet
Ew.
in sandals.
Just Google Kevin Durant feet slides and wait, or does it say slides or sandals in the pig? Because I feel like we switched like 3 years ago.
Subreddit oddly terrifying. Yeah, you could do sandals or slides. There's a few photos.
Oddly terrifying. Now, back in the day, people would have to wrestle with the fact if they were gay or not, if they liked girl or boy things. Mm-hmm. And even before that, you just say, oh, tomboy, or what would be the other one? Yeah, I guess girls could be tomboy. Guys are just gay, light in the loafers. And then you get up to me, and then you have to ask yourself if you're gay or not. And nowadays, I feel like if you like anything feminine, you just like, oh, the answer is that you're gay. But my feeling is I've always way preferred and way loved girl clothes, not wearing them, but aesthetically more than guy clothes. And I think,
well, that's the whole point.
Think
most guys don't care.
But it's not really I guess it is partly about that. It's like they are servicing
and more options.
They're servicing the needs of men, and I think it is a growing trend, just like men's sort of.
I just got to add today for boxers that you pull up over your belly to tighten it, to like suck it in. It's like Spanx for men. And I was like, no. And what algorithm got me on this?
But just how like
that. I know what it is. I was looking for gyms in the area.
Oh, yeah. But just how like there's more like facial care and everything for men. So it's like.
No, for women.
No, I mean. Nowadays, it's like
now
expanding.
It's like the shaving experience.
Exactly. It's always growing. So I think it is a little bit of that. But I would say for me, I feel like I just had an understanding is that I feel like from an artistic or aesthetically pleasing, and it's not just the bazongas under the shirt. Wait, what's the thing I sent you the other day? It was like bazonkies. It's not even about the sexuality of the women. I think it might be about the aesthetically pleasing proportions.
Because women are shorter.
The women are shorter. There's better proportions. And therefore, the clothes fit and hang a certain way.
Can be done.
And like, I just feel like
those guys. That's like the guys that get the like epic suits from like London, the like perfectly made to fit your body suits. They look a billion times better. A plain black and white suit looks a bazillion times better if it's made for your body, or if it's from Men's Warehouse.
I agree. Freaking James Bond and his Tom Fords.
Yeah. No, even more specific than Tom Ford.
In his tailored Tom Ford.
There's ones that just like measure you and they're like, okay, we'll make you a suit.
I know. Like they
The one that does the suits for the royal weddings. There's like a specific shop that's been doing it for like
that's cool.
hundreds of years in England. London.
But anyway,
The guy on TikTok. Is that what you're gonna say?
Sorry, no. Don't. I don't want to get too far. So, I brought up Fibonacci.
Oh yes, the ratio. The Japanese man.
Now combine those two.
Japanachi.
No, that was the
Japanachi ratio man.
That was World War II. That was the Axis powers.
Oh yeah.
No. This is wait, you Google, because if you don't know it by now, you have not heard it, so you need to Google the silver ratio. Okay. Silver ratio wiki.
While I'm Googling it, there was a stand-up comedian, a girl, who was dressed in Japanese street garb, and she had the bowl cut and everything. Very committed to her. Yeah. And she was talking about, maybe I sent it to you, talking about Oppenheimer.
No, I almost sent it to you. Then I was like, I don't know if we would like this one. But
and
we
then
both
she was like,
they have to behave
they weren't
themselves.
allowed to have an offensive military anymore. So now the only thing they can do is be cute and weird and make Hello Kitty and things like that. The silver ratio
is also named the Japanese ratio, and it is a ratio that the Japanese people traditionally find more aesthetically pleasing. And it's found in their architecture, aka
two quantities are in the silver ratio if the ratio of the smaller of those two quantities to the larger quantity is the same as the ratio of the larger quantity to the sum of all the smaller quantities.
So, dear listener, there is the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. It is sort of mysteriously, we don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, no one knows.
It's sort of mysteriously found in all these places, just in nature, that plants tend to grow. Fauna tends to find itself in. The human eye tends to be aesthetically pleased by this ratio, Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio. And it's this, like I said, it's sort of this mysterious thing, but yet there is something to it, because it is definitely, if you do blind studies of what people find beautiful, or if you study nature and how certain things grow, why are things growing in this form?
Maybe I should get the silver ratio on my other arm.
But the Japanese people, because they have to be differente, they have their own ratio. It is some other places, but it's so strongly associated with Japanese culture.
It's summed up, if you're interested, in 1 plus the square root of 2. And that's how you would write it.
And I saw that, and I was like, Will needs to know about this. I got to save it on the pod. That is...
Oh, it has an octagon is a silver ratio. Like a stop sign. So the length of the top of the stop sign would be like your constant one section of the top of the stop sign. And then across the whole stop sign, the middle of it, left to right, would be the silver ratio of that. 1 plus the square root of 2.
Like a perfect octagon or whatever.
Yeah, like a stop sign. Interesting.
We could have different kinds of octagons, but I get what you mean.
Well, any 8-sided shape can be an octagon.
That's what I'm saying. You didn't clarify.
I said a stop sign.
Equilateral. I don't know what an octagon is.
Brought
I don't
to
know what
you-
I don't know what a
brought
stop
to
sign
you,
is.
Brought to you by Proper 12.
Brought to you by autism. Dude, all you have to do is stare at a Japanese guy's butt for 2 seconds, and pretty soon you're Wikipediaing the silver ratio, and all of a sudden you're talking about it on the podcast.
I'm still stuck on his pants. I want to know what they are.
And you folks out there are just living your stupid lives watching your freaking ESPN. Oh, my fantasy softball team.
Did I tell you I was at an ESPN filming?
We're doing stuff like research.
I was at an ESPN filming.
What did they film?
Corgi races.
Oh,
It was for
you didn't tell me that.
it was for the Ocho.
There was.
You know the Ocho?
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
And it's not just on
Dodgeball.
dodgeball?
Yeah, so once a year they do a day on ESPN2, which is the Ocho. They change it to the Ocho, and they just do all crazy stuff.
That's
They do like
hilarious.
they used to do cornhole on there before cornhole became what it is now, and like they would just do
Dude,
like
it's like cornholio now.
they would just do all sorts of crazy stuff. So they were recording the corgi races at Emerald Downs
Oh.
to be on.
Dude, that was a giant detail that mother and father left out.
Yeah, why? I don't know why. Because we were talking about it. Because it was a big deal. Because we walked in there, we were late because we were at the dog show. Because Gracie finished her championship. Shout out.
She got a point.
Her last point.
Shout out Gracie. Her last point?
Yeah, so now she's champion Gracie.
Oh,
Oriel
last point for champion.
to become a champion.
She's not retiring.
There's rumor of me bringing her out in to become a
Wait.
silver champion.
Yeah, wait, because Gracie is not old.
Right.
Yeah, because Gracie
So pretty much if
Gracie
I,
was a pup not very long ago.
yeah, pretty much if
And now
I,
she's a champion?
yes.
Oh my god.
It actually took a long time. She had been needing 4 points.
What was her
for a
main
long
hang-up?
time. What was her main hang up? We don't know. All breed
Racism.
judges. Yeah. So here's the thing. You go to an all breed show such as Westminster, the person judging collies might not be anyone that has anything to do with collies.
Right.
So they don't know. I saw this happen in Puyallup at the Puyallup Fairgrounds.
Dude, I'm already...
If you remember, there's a color of collies which is white. It's like the most recessive one, where their body's mostly white and then their head is just whether it's like black or sable or whatever.
They're
or
in
blue.
but they're in the blue category?
No, they're in their own category.
Oh, they're even in their own?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they'll be like open bitch class whites. They'll call them up.
For collies,
For
it's
collies.
open bitch class whites for collies.
Yes. And it'll be all whites. And they all have white bodies with maybe a few spots or no spots at all.
That sounds
And
like
then-
me.
And then their head will look like any other collie, like the brown and white or the tricolored or the blue. And so in Puyallup, I saw this happen. That's an all breed show. It's a person judging that's not necessarily a collie
Wait.
person.
How many of those that can be a giant category?
No, it's not. It's not. It's like the rarest.
Yeah, but
It's
so
like the double.
is whatever
recessive.
dog just like racking up points in that category or whatever? But
No, because
people don't respect it.
because then if they win their class, which has one or two people in it, they still have to go up against.
You don't get points for that
No,
for class.
no. You have to then go against all the winners of all the
Right.
classes.
I got it.
So that's why Gracie kept winning her class and then not winning the best of winners.
Yeah, that would be.
But so what happens
I
is
get it. That would be hard.
people aren't collie people, and then so literally it's a class called Open Whites, full of whites, and the guy goes to the standard and be like, "Are they allowed to have white, fur? Blah 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 blah." They're like looking it up if it's even a thing. Like they don't even know,
Yeah.
and they're the ones judging it.
You got to do some work ahead of time, and that's on
Yeah.
you.
Yes. And so Gracie,
Be
who has some
prepared.
shout out to Lion King earlier. Gracie has some of the best one movement of any dog ever, like we talked about. The 45-degree angle legs, creating the two triangles.
She's got her ratio down.
She's got her ratio down. And expression, which collie is an expression breed.
Oh, yeah. Lauren said they have to have almond eyes.
Exactly. And then...
Which sounded a little bit sort of like... It's sort of maybe like projection because she has sort of almond eyes. So I was like, okay. Is that just...
Oh, you didn't get to see Isla. She's so fat now.
Dude, I noticed the pictures have been getting fatter and fatter.
I've been trying to compare her eyes.
I was trying to come over a little earlier, but I forgot you've been putting her to bed early.
Yeah, anyway. Isla's a champ. I might take her out.
You mean Gracie?
Oh, yeah, Gracie. My other kid. Champ now. In the future, I'll probably take her in some owner-handled classes. That's what it's called. So it's because a lot of people are dogs are shown by professional handlers that don't technically own the dog, so they have a separate shows and classes for owners that show their own dogs.
You are going to you're going to take another step. You're not going to be bucket bitch.
I know. I've shown her before.
I know, but you were just a fill-in before.
Yeah, now it'll be more planned.
You had your suit, though, but you're a fill-in.
It'll be more planned. I'm still not going to groom her. I'm still claiming...
Oh, my gosh.
I'm still claiming...
Privilege. White privilege.
Wait. There's another term, and it's called...
Bitch privilege.
Wait, it's called... Oh, my gosh. It's called...
Will's so misogynist, he doesn't even want any association with the word bitch. He won't even show his own...
Shoot. Wait, there's a term for like when you... It's... weaponized incompetence. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Good TikToks.
So it's like, I don't
know how to do the dishes.
Yeah, I can't do the laundry. I always mix the colors up.
Yeah, I don't know what cupboards they go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is me with grooming the dogs.
That's true. Oh, man. I'd have time to learn if I wasn't working so hard to support this family. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. Except not in your case. You've been off.
I know.
Okay. Dude, transition king tonight. Let's transition to another thing because we're going to catch up right now. Will and I have had... Okay, sans the baby situation for a second.
Yes.
Although it is the genesis of the difference I'm about to explain. But Will and I have probably had the most opposite work experiences over the last... How long have you been off? 3 months?
3 months.
3 months, and mine was another month before that. But the last 3 months, I have probably worked harder and... even when I wasn't working more hours, the sort of the chaotic and sort of brain drain nature of my work over the last couple months was exhausting. And Will has just been kicking it on the couch. Every once in a while, he'll make a deck or he'll braise a pork loin or something. And although that is a bit of work for a day, in total, he has just been chillaxing. Mm-hmm. He has been like the first 2 lines of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song. And he has been chilling out max, relaxing all cool, shooting some b-ball outside of the house, the nice house he lives in.
2 doors down on the basketball.
And I thought it was an interesting place to have this conversation because, especially in the last week, I knew even when Mom was here? No, it wasn't because I left on time. But right after they left, over an 8-day period, I worked almost 100 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was going to take that. I'm not complaining. It was just a once in a blue moon sort of thing.
Because, shout out, you got a promotion.
It's not out in the public yet, but it might be as of tomorrow.
Edit
But if it's not, I will bleep it. If it is, I don't know. Nobody listens who I work with anyways.
By the time it comes out, it'll be public.
But anyways, yes, so we are transitioning because Will just clocked back in this very night we're recording, and I just finished a project this very week that we're recording as well.
So it's like I had the baby, then we transitioned for you were working hard.
Dude.
I was working hard to please. Remember that Justin Bieber thing? Working hard to please you.
No.
Okay.
But we were trans for 3 months. Transitioned.
Yes. Yes.
And now we're transing again tonight.
I know but I finally got back on a schedule as far as I know, so that's exciting.
Wait, did you actually have like feelings or whatever tonight when you just called that lady just now?
I've had feelings the last few days.
Yeah.
It's more of like I had the same feelings I feel like at the end of a weekend where you just like don't want to go to work on Monday.
Yeah.
Whereas like I did not, like the last couple of days, I did not want to do anything. I just wanted to like, and that's usually like my go-to when I'm like stressed or something. I just go into a sort of vegetative fugue state.
Fugue state early on in this podcast or whenever it was. That was one of my. Yes, I love that it's lasted. Fugue state.
So I don't want to do anything, and I want to eat bad food, and I want to just. So that's how I've been the last few days. It's bittersweet. I mean, it's bittersweet because I have to go back to work, not spend as much time with my family, but then I also haven't gotten paid in 3 months, so there's that. But I am in cahoots with the state of Washington, who started their paternity leave support, and I may have found a loophole because my contract is expired with our union.
Oh.
So it's taken 3 months, but I have been talking to someone. So that's good.
That's interesting. You know what? I think about that all the time. When you told me you were on the same contract for 3 years and eventually 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they'll re-up do something.
New contract.
Yeah. But will there be back pay? Will there be
So
whatever?
It's lapsed from December 31st, 2021.
I know. I think that's crazy. That's not 5 years. That's 2 years.
Yeah, but that contract started 5 years before that.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And so
I think
technically,
about that all the time.
whenever they ratify this contract, it starts January 1st, 2022.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be for the future, but it's for the past.
Yes.
Which is a weird negotiating.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about that because I saw the Alaska people. Are they striking? SAG is happening right now. The writers, the freaking.
But guess what happened when the railroad tried to strike last year? You remember?
Joe B said, "Get to B work."
Exactly.
You bees.
When he's supposed to be Mr. Railroad.
Dude.
Literally the home of Amtrak, Wilmington, Delaware station is the Joe Biden station.
Dude. And what do trains really do?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
So anyways, we're in the middle of a work. Okay, let me tell you about a work situation I had.
Sure.
What do you feel about this? Speaking of alphas and betas. Last Thursday night.
You're making money moves?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I texted you. I was like, well, there is a positive and negative to salaries, which is I worked 100 hours and I got my same 40 hours that I would have got otherwise. But
that's where mine on the opposite side of that. Sometimes I'll work 100 hours and get paid for 100 hours. And then other times I'll work
48
hours and get paid for 16.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was telling you about the pilot tonight. He's just like, I got to maximize my... But tell me if this is alpha move or beta move.
Delta.
Sigma.
Delta
MGTOW.
Airlines.
The last thing I did on Thursday night, and so basically accounting wise, blah, 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 I had to do all these things called journal entries, and basically all the sort of transactions that I created based on some technical issues. I couldn't do them all throughout the month. I had to do them all at the end, which also meant from a sort of like double check standpoint, I couldn't actually like double check my work for most of the month. And then I only had a couple days left at the end of the month. And those were so chaotic. This lady running.
I remember that from my accounting class. If you couldn't double check along the way, then all of a sudden, if you could be all screwed up and you don't even know.
Exactly. And that's how I was. So I'm like, I could have just screwed up $100 million of cash transactions this month and not known it. And so I get to the end of the month, Thursday night. It's almost 9:00 at night. I work for a long time, making sure I balance to at least the activity.
Tesla.
I finally double check all my work, and it was for like all of July basically. And we're closing the books on July and we're moving into August. So I finally double checked all of July and I got it. It balanced. I did everything correctly. All this system, because of the whole system I implemented over the last month, but I've been creating it for 4 months prior to that. Mm-hmm. And it's been so much work, and the people have been so disruptive and unhelpful in that process.
Because they don't want change.
It's not even that. It's like, but also that. It's been such a singular endeavor. It's been such a weight on my shoulders that when I finally clicked the button that said 0.00 and I knew the month was over, it was like such a release. Mm-hmm. And then
nothing like a good release.
Oh, nothing better than a midnight release. And then I press save, Control-Alt-Delete, lock, grab the keys, walk to my truck, and on the way home,
you cried.
I almost cried on the way home.
Oh man.
I was actually very emotional on the way home, and so it was like sort of the relief of like it's over. But also I had an experience that I don't usually have, and a convo with the pilot made me want to bring this up to you. It was like, it felt so good to have an accomplishment, because one of the things about corporate accounting versus like tax accounting or something, where you're doing accounting, like maybe an auditor or something.
Yeah.
The thing about corporate accounting is like from month to month, you sort of have the same routine. So you're doing your transactions throughout the month.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first couple days of the month, you're doing closing, and then you're back into your routine for the next month. And maybe at your year end, you're doing some extra things. But because you're a part of a corporation that is just sort of like wants to exist in perpetuity, your work is also being done in perpetuity. And so unless you have some milestones in there, you don't have that many moments of celebration or whatever because you're doing the same thing the next month. But because of my work and because I'm ADD, but also just because of the nature of what I get to do at work, I do have some project things like this. And that's why it was so good at the end. I literally had this moment that I don't get to have very often where I was like, I am so proud of myself. And it felt like such a childish feeling a little bit, because how many times do you say, well, that was part of what I'm trying to say, is also like, maybe I should feel that more or whatever. But it was such an overwhelming feeling. Like I am so, because it was such a singular endeavor, it was like, I am so proud of myself. Like this is on me. This is 4 months of work. I did this. I can hang my hat on this. I know all the work I put into this, and lots of people do. Lots of people know the work I put into it too, and sort of praise me. But it just felt good on a personal level to say, like, I am really, really proud of myself for the job I did. And now I'm going to transition back to you, because I was talking about that feeling to the pilot on Sunday, and he was saying, oh, that's interesting, because he said, I only feel as good as my last landing. And so he was kind of saying, because his job, like the routineness of, so this month I'm flying to Fairbanks and back, or this month I'm flying to Pittsburgh and back. Here I am at the Pittsburgh airport again. I'm landing. Oh, there's a little bit bumpy. Well, I'll wake up again tomorrow and I'm flying back to Seattle. And then the next day I'm flying back to Pittsburgh. And then it's back to Seattle again. So it's more intense because you have a flying jet in the sky with 300 souls, 200 souls on board.
Yeah.
And you're landing, and you're trying to get them there safely. So the stakes are higher. And so on a daily basis, you sort of have that. But the accomplishment goes away so fast because you're doing it again.
That's what I was going to say. I feel related to what you said, where it's like, it feels monotonous for a time, but then, and I'm probably told this, I feel like I told this story on here, but then it was like Christmas Eve and we hit a tree.
Dude, why's your vol all over the place? Bring the energy.
No phones, maybe. Christmas Eve, hit a tree in the snow. It's stuck. The tree is stuck up under the train. It broke off a valve on an air tank, which is very important. The train can't move without it.
The tree was downed via snow, therefore it's over the tracks.
And it was like doing that ice, rain, like rain, freeze, ice, snow stuff. And so, yeah. Did I tell you this?
Maybe.
This is like not this. Maybe was it this last winter? I think it was.
I've been thinking about you riding with a BNSF guy on down the tracks.
That was a couple of years ago.
I like that story.
This was up in Canada. So you're in Canada. You're not supposed to go back into Canada because you already processed through customs. It's nighttime. It's dark. It's ice raining. There's like literally a layer of ice on the front of the engine.
There's vampires.
Hit a tree. It perfectly wedges itself up under the axle of one of the wheels under the engine. In the meantime, breaking off this valve of this tank, which applies the brakes to the train. So go out there in the ice and snow and rain and freezing cold and dark. Assess the situation. There's air blowing out of the tank. There's a giant tree. I'm walking through the snow, and I have to plug the hole somehow, and then also get this giant tree out from under the train, which is not budging. It's perfectly like wedged up underneath. And so we end up getting the tree out after a long time of using a hammer and a little like 2-foot crowbar thing to like chip away at this one piece of the tree that was stuck. And then I called the mechanical.
There's probably a baby on board, crying.
I called the mechanical department, and they're like, in the engine there should be this kit, which is like a little like repair kit, which I've never even heard of. Dude,
it wasn't in your training manual that you have on iPads now and not
and I'm
hard
talking
copies?
To this person in Wilmington,
Said
Delaware.
The blind lady?
Talking to this person in Wilmington, Delaware.
No, her boyfriend was blind. No, she was blind.
Yeah, that lady. Both. And
he was dead.
Yeah. Ireland. Walking across the street to Jack in the Box. I'm calling this lady on the East Coast saying that there's this repair kit in the engine that I've never even seen in my entire life. And I'm like, well, and the engine's at the other end of the train. We're going backwards. And so I send my assistant conductor to go look for that. And in the meantime, I'm like, if that is not there, we need to figure something out. So I took a broom handle and I snapped off the end of it.
Dude, over your knee? Just say it was over your knee.
Yeah. And then I'm whittling the end of it into a spike to put into the hole in the air tank.
Wait, before you knew there was a thing, or there was not the thing?
I didn't know. But it was going to take a while for him to get to the other train and look for it. But in the meantime, I was like, we got to get going. I'm going to do this in the meantime while I'm waiting for him to look for the official spike, which was in the repair kit.
Oh, dude.
I told this other guy.
You were thinking on the fly.
I told this other guy I was working with, because they do this little like top sales guy for like the person that sells the most stuff in the snack, lounge. Yeah. And I'm like, if I get this train going with this broom handle, I want my picture on the board. And, but anyway, the spike was found, the official repair kit spike. And so we spiked the hole that the valve broke off of, which how it held the whole time back was surprising. Got the tree out in the snow, in the rain. Everything.
I want to figure out how you clear a spike with a spike.
No, there was. So imagine a big tank that looks
But
like...
I don't want to derail this story. You explain that part after. You finish your story.
We got it going. And it was Christmas. And I was like, I'm getting home for Christmas. I just saved this whole train.
See how good I just was with the Adderall? I didn't get lost in the details.
You stayed on subject. There's an Adderall story. So yeah, and that was, I felt accomplished. Like you're saying, as compared to like if we would have just
it took something
Yeah.
You had needed to have the opportunity to break the monotony in the first place.
If we would have just gone home, wouldn't have thought. Never would have thought of anything.
Even though it is an accomplishment every day to do your job well,
right.
To make sure people get there safely, to handle all the little personalities
so many
going hither and yon.
45 pounds of rule books consolidated on an iPad that we had to know.
Exactly. Blind lady, Ireland. Dead guy.
And then, so how to fix a spike? Imagine a tank that looks like some sort of cylinder with rounded edges, and then on the end of it is a little valve. Imagine a garden hose valve, but with an ankle cock on it instead of a little twisty knob. And so that just gets completely just shorn off. So now there's just the normal big tank, but then just a hole.
Did you say ankle cock?
Angle cock.
Angle cock.
Because whatever angle you have it at, whatever you cock the angle at, it's either open or closed.
Okay.
And so then, like, the hoses that have the little thing on it that you have to, like, twist open or close, but it's just like a little lever.
Mm-hmm.
that's what it looks like, but bigger and metal. And so that just gets knocked off. So now there's like a 1/2 inch to an inch hole just where that was.
Oh.
Where it normally screws into the little valve, but now it's just broken off. So there is a wooden spike.
It was, how?
I.e. a solid wooden ice cream cone.
How odd that a puncture would need a puncture.
It wasn't a puncture, though. It was a shearing.
A shearing.
Edge shearing.
How odd, though, that a shearing would need a
Stabbing.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have thought. I was like, how are we even going to move?
Dude, that's freaking poetic.
So then we find the wooden spike, even though I was making one that would have worked. Just noted, it would have worked. And then we just took the wooden spike and just hammered it as hard as we could. It was like super like hardwood into the hole, and it stayed long enough to get all the way back. Not even just back into the U.S., but all the way back to our home terminal.
Wow. That's good to know they have a kit for edge shearings.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Amazing.
He did not steal it from Otis Redding.
He did not. You know what I was thinking? And maybe we could talk about Leavenworth next time because we're at the end of recording time. But when I was up in Wenatchee and we went to Leavenworth, I was thinking we must have talked one time about
Munchin House.
I think about Munchin House? No, that's not the one we went to. But about how if there was actually more trains, how much a like low cost train would do like to
Leavenworth,
to Seattle and back or whatever, Seattle-ish, Bellevue,
that
whatever.
Leavenworth one is timed bad.
I know,
because it's set up to go to Chicago, and you get to you leave Seattle at 4:40, and you get to Leavenworth at like 8:40, and then but then in the morning you get to Leavenworth at like 5 in the morning.
Can you imagine a summertime affordable Leavenworth train?
Just a back and forth.
Oh,
just every day at noon, going both directions or something.
Dude,
leave Seattle at 8 a.m., get to Leavenworth at noon.
The ocular extension I feel just thinking about that.
And then leave Leavenworth at noon, get back to Seattle at 4 p.m.
Well, we get a train that goes faster than that.
No, because it has to go to Everett and then down. And you can only go 35 up the mountain.
I know, but in this dream scenario.
Okay.
Lead me in
but even
up
that,
the mountain.
What if
that?
What if you paid $40 to be on a train going up the Puget Sound, beautiful scenery, going up the mountain, beautiful scenery, to Leavenworth.
Dude, let's say you get up
during the daytime. And that whole time you can eat and drink and walk around and you have leg room and you don't have to do anything and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Let's say it was 8. You left at 8. You got up there at 12.
Yes.
And let's say you were up there at 6, up there until 6, and then you got home at 10. You could either be...
Oh, in one day.
Yeah, exactly. You could either be the lunch person, or you could be like, you know what? We're gonna have a late breakfast, and then we're gonna do a fancy dinner at maybe like 4:00. Wine. We'll sit out on the things. We'll have a good time, and then we'll get on.
There's like 24 wineries there for like wine tasting.
I know. Whoa!
Who's doing this?
Okay, it's time to wrap it up because the ghost camera on the YouTube is telling us that we need to wrap it up because it just zoomed in.
Real quick, back to Japanese silver ratio. I think that's why I love the cars. They've got smaller wheels than American cars, and then bigger, taller bodies. You'll see here, like that one.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The Japanese key cars.
There you go.
Yeah. I love them.
That
one. Love it.
Oh, yeah. That looks like the British ones.
Yeah, it looks like the taxis, but smaller wheels.
So check out, what do we got to check out? Silver ratio. iPads, basic accounting. What else did we talk about? The beginning was Japanese. We talked about different kinds of fabric, what scrambly channels.
Nip.
All kinds of things you could Google and get involved in. Be like us. Be curious about the world.
Unless you're driving.
Unless you're driving, then the passenger should be the curious one about the world. And you can just make notes into your phone. Google this later. Do this later. Siri, remind me to look up the silver ratio, Japanese foot size. Am I gay or not? No, I just like the ratio of women's fabric. Why are we zooming in on cracks in the road? We don't know. There's a YouTube malfunction. It's distracting us from completing this podcast, and therefore we do need to end this right now. I apologize, but we will be back next week.